Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the new episode of the Xbox Factor podcast. I'm your host, Mr. BoomStick XL. Folks, we have an outstanding show for you today. Obviously, the cast of characters are here in the flesh. Jamie Moran, the elusive gamer, aka Mr. Mass Effect. We also have Infinite Flintlock. I got some thoughts about that game, and well, I'm not enjoying it, so I'm gonna stop playing it. But we have a great show for you folks. Some numbers have officially come in for Concord, and I gotta tell you, folks, it's not looking good. We said this weeks ago that it was dead on arrival. Some people poo-pooed it as us just being, anti-PlayStation gamers. That's not in fact the case. The numbers are in, folks. We have people in the industry talking about it, basically confirming that it is a flop, except for IGN, of course, who has something different to say about it, which isn't surprising at all because, well, they're on the payroll, so to speak, when it comes to PlayStation. We also going to get into the Xbox game family plan that was brought back into conversation thanks to the incredibly talented Jez Cord of Windows Central. Yesterday, on the back end of the Xbox lunch break special, we had a conversation. I want to do a deeper dive because I don't think it's talked about enough, or at least has been in recent months, the importance financially of this coming back in a big way. There's apparently, thanks to to Jez Cord, who wrote a story about it, I think there is a lot to be had here. I think it's something that absolutely has to happen, especially when you hear that there are people in the community that have multiple gamers. Remember, it's not just one person per household. There are households that have everyone as being a gamer. Now, that gamer is going to differ from family to family. Some people are going to be PC gamers. Some people are going to traditionally, like myself, game on a console. There's going to be, of course, a much younger generation that games on their phones and tablets, and you know what? That is life for them. So, of course, we're going to get into that, and of course, we'll add some more on the back end. But let's get into the intros, and we'll start first with the elusive gamer, Jamie Moran. We were talking in the green room, Jamie. You are the master of posts on Twitter. You get a lot of positive conversation with the peoples, but you also get the inmates that have escaped from Arkham to just simply try to pile on a post that you're being positive on. How you feeling? Good morning.
Hey man, happy to be here. And the funny thing is, I cover Xbox pretty much exclusively on Twitter and on YouTube, but like on Twitter, it angers people. And I do this lately. I've been doing this thing where I would call it a mini social experiment where I don't even mention PlayStation at all in any capacity, and I just talk about Xbox, and it angers people. And the thing is, we've talked about this before on your channel, on my channel, like Xbox, despite all the stuff that happened earlier on in the year, if you look at Xbox from like the outside looking in, all the games that's coming out, the roadmap, the Game Pass titles, Xbox is in a great place. So when you're positive about Xbox, it really gets to people. It crawls underneath people's skin, and I kind of enjoy it at the same time because literally I could say something really nice about the game, just something positive, and people flip their lids. It's hilarious.
It's again, I get it if you're if you're a diehard PlayStation guy or gal, there's literally nothing wrong with that. You enjoy gaming wherever you enjoy gaming. But where I think the line should be drawn is when you are like myself. I'll put out a positive. I'll talk about a game like the First Descenders. I can't get enough of it. And some of the posts that literally have nothing to do with the game, it's immediate Xbox hate rhetoric. And I'm like,
yeah.
How did we get here? I'm excited about a game that I'm playing. Does it matter where I'm playing the game? I'm playing on Xbox. What if you're playing on PlayStation? You know what? We can play together because their crossplay is awesome, right? No one cares. You play with a bunch of randos and you see PlayStation logos, you see PC logos, you see Xbox logos, and everyone is just, leveling up their character, having a good time. Where does the hate come from? I don't know, Jamie. But needless to say, we appreciate you being here, and we're going to get into it for sure. Hey, Infinite Number, or should I say Infinite Flintlock? What's up, brother? How you feeling?
I'm feeling good, Boom, brother. It's good to talk with you again, and you as well, Jamie. Yeah, man. I heard you on a Flintlock. I was actually kind of like you at first, and it took me a second, and then a game finally grabbed me. And
Okay.
I think what the problem is with this game is, first off, there are some systems that I don't care for. Some of the combat is a little janky, where it's not it's mimicking a Souls type of combat style in a way, but it's not as solid as a Souls game. So sometimes enemies will hit you when they shouldn't have, in my opinion.
Yeah. The
Or
hit
Oh, yeah.
boxes are not great. For sure.
yeah, so sometimes that's annoying. But what I will say, and also too, is one of those games that suffers the weaker you are. So the more you upgrade, the better you start to get a feel for the combat and the abilities and things you can do. So that's the thing. Like, you got to stick with it, and once you kind of get over that hill, and you start to get new abilities and powers and stuff like that, or whatever. I want to say powers, but new abilities and things like that. That's when it kind of opens up for me, I would say.
Yeah, you know what? Look, my problem simply with Flintlock is not that it's not the greatest looking game. I play ugly games all the time, and I like playing older games that just don't translate to what we're used to in 2024. See, that doesn't bother me. Like, the biggest thing for me is the slide dodge. I literally hate it. I
Yep.
think that the hit boxes that you're talking about are so poor that even when you do a perfect one, you're getting clipped. I don't understand why they went with that slide rather than a traditional roll, which would have been so much better. And look, it's in Game Pass. I tried it. I downloaded it. I didn't like it. I did not like it. I deleted it. I went back to playing like Halo and now I'm going to get into Dungeons of Hindenburg. That looks like that's going to be a game for me. And again, that's the thing about Game Pass. You pay your monthly subscription. You download a game. If you like it, it's a bonus. It's a winner chicken dinner. If you don't like it, well, there was no harm, no foul. Simply delete it off of your hard drive, which is exactly what I did.
Yeah.
But
I agree. Yeah, that is the beauty of it. And it's not, the old saying is not every game is for everybody. So it is
indeed,
what it is. I
yeah,
am going to try out Dungeons of Hinterberg soon too, though. That'll be
that
next
looks
after I
really
finish
good.
this one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love exploration. I've heard
Hmm.
comparisons to Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom.
Mm,
I love those games. So I
yeah.
cannot wait to play it. But like I said, I'm still unbelievably addicted to the First Descendant. I see a couple of people in here. Let me see who said it that have 4 characters unlocked. Who said that? Serve said it actually, and he says actually he has 5 characters unlocked. I bought a bunch of them. I'm not going to front. I spent money. I did unlock a few on my own, but I think I have a total of 8 or 9 characters. I have 5 that are level 40. I have 2 that are 30, and I have 2 that I have to start that are like super low level. I'm enjoying the H out of it, nonetheless. But let's get into the opening salvo, if you will, ladies and gentlemen, and that is Concord. Now, we all kind of knew, Jamie, that Concord had the potential to bomb. And it did. It did terribly. So I have a story here from insidergaming.com. It was written by Mike Straw just the other day, as a matter of fact, yesterday. And it says the Concord open beta bombed on Steam. And the article simply says Concord is in the midst of holding its open beta on Steam, and the numbers, to be quite honest, have not been good. According to Steam DB, the beta for Concord has had a peaked player count of just 2,388 players, which happened on Thursday, July 18th. Since then, the numbers have continued to drop from an already disappointing level. July 19th saw a max of just 1,654 players. July 20th dropped down to 1,447. And on July 21st, it was at 11117. So 1,117 people were playing the game on the 21st. Again, the article says this was a completely free and open beta over the weekend for a game that PlayStation has been targeting as its big hero shooter. If the numbers were that low when anyone could play, it's hard to imagine what they'll be when the game fully launches at $40. I mean, look, some of the things that, and shout out to Nico Muller, who posted this right before the show went live. I don't know whether he did it on purpose or he didn't, but it works out because it's a conversation we're having. According to Forbes, it says this: there is no spinning how poorly Sony's Concord open beta went on Steam. And an article that was posted the other day by IGN saying Concord already shaping up to be a heavyweight in the hero shooter genre. We could easily see it competing with genre giants. Yeah, I mean that you can see someone being honest and someone on the take. The being honest is Forbes because they are obviously reciting what many people in the gaming community who actually played it said about the game. And then there's the one that is getting paid to play, and that is IGN, which, of course, we know more than 40% of their ad read come the way of Sony PlayStation. So I'm not surprised by this. Jamie, look, this is another misstep for PlayStation. They bet big on this. Now, I'm not using it as a conversational piece because I think it's hogwash. There was a running rumor on Reddit and a few other of the places online where you can find rumors where Herman Holtz said that this is the greatest shooter he's ever played. I didn't find anyone credible enough in the journalistic community to actually print that. So that's not going to be a part of the conversation. If he did say that during an interview, we would have known about it. So I think people were just kind of piling on. Jamie, this is a disaster for PlayStation, who doesn't have any major first-party games releasing this year other than this game and, of course, Astrobot, which we all know that I'm excited for. This was supposed to be another entry into the gas game world. Now, Helldivers did great, and I use the word "did" in past tense because a lot of people have fallen off, and that's because the content has not been updated. Will people come back? I believe that they will. The game's fun, but right now it's just not making any more waves. This was supposed to, I assume, take up where Helldivers 2 left off and continue the hype train for gas games under PlayStation. It did not happen. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, it's a weird one because, was anyone really saying, you know what we need? Another hero shooter, and one that costs $40 that will also have microtransactions. People are fed up. People really don't want that. I mean, look at the Overwatch community. They love that game. They complain about that game. They weren't asking for a clone. They really weren't. And like you were saying before the show went live, Sony tends to beat their chest and talk about the numbers of like people playing, the reviews of the games, betas or whatever. And everything that's came out about Concord is negative. Like, I haven't played the game, so I can't really speak to how the game plays. But I will say from what I've seen, as someone that doesn't like live service games, really, especially like hero shooters, it looks like an Overwatch clone. No one was asking for that. And just to put this into comparison, do you know Valve has a game coming out this year, which they haven't announced, called Deadlock? It has more concurrent players than Concord did.
Wow.
This game hasn't been announced yet, and there's more people playing that than Concord in the beta. And bear in mind, the beta was free, to people that I think it was pre-ordered it or had a PSN, and then they opened it up to everyone. And then even though it was free, people were choosing not to play it. All they had to do was download it. And like, let's say the shoe was on the other foot. Let's say Concord was debuted on the Xbox show in June, and they had this beta and it failed. Would IGN really be putting out that article about how this is going to be an amazing multiplayer experience, how it's going to be a game changer, how it's going to stack up alongside Call of Duty, Modern Warfare, Overwatch 2, all that? No, they wouldn't. The check cleared. That's what it sounded like.
Yeah.
And like the multiplayer space is extremely saturated. When it comes to PvP at the minute, you basically have Call of Duty, Halo, X Defiant, and Overwatch. That's pretty much it. Nobody's asking for another one. And I think that like competition's always great. It really is. It's great. But humans, creatures of habit. Call of Duty players, as much as they were saying, hey, I want to move to X Defiant, I want something new, they came crawling back. Same with Overwatch. Every single game that's like, look at this. Destiny came out in 2014. They had this 10-year plan. People made fun of it, and Destiny's still here. And along the way, all these other games came up and tried to copy that formula. Remember Avengers? They tried to copy it. It failed. Suicide Squad killed the Justice League. We see what's going on with that. And Anthem. I was so hyped for Anthem, and it fell flat on its face to the point where the developers forgot that the game existed, and they left the in-game Christmas lights on till February, right? So, like, the multiplayer space has been a mess for years. People say they want new things, they want change, but everything that comes out is just a copy of something else. Sony has IPs that would like take off, because look at Twisted Metal, right? Twisted Metal would fill a gap in the multiplayer space that that isn't really filled up by anyone at the minute.
Yep.
You could have customer. I can't speak.
Customization. Yeah. No,
customization on cars and all that
yes.
stuff. And they also have another IP which I used to play as a kid and I loved. And these games don't exist anymore. SOCOM, third-person tactical military shooters. We don't really have any, but they went with a hero shooter in 2024 when people are just fed up with it. It's just too much. And look at this year alone for hero shooters. There's 3 or 4 coming out, one of which is a Marvel game, which is going to be multi-platform and free. So where does Concord stack up? And I think, you have this game where there's like 16 characters, maybe 4 of them look interesting. They literally look like they've just been drawn up by kids. The designs are terrible. The maps look boring. But like from everyone I've spoke to that played the game, they just said it didn't have enough content there. So like, how is this game meant to appeal to a fan base that's predominantly single player? Like they've been fed single player games for the past decade, being told, hey, this is a single player box. You're going to get single player games. And now they're given this multiplayer game. This multiplayer game, which they aren't used to. Because remember, during the PS3 generation, they had single player games, they had multiplayer games, they had fighters, they had platformers, everything. And then last generation, they pretty much told their entire fan base, if you're here for single player. And if you want multiplayer, you've got Call of Duty, Battlefield, and all that stuff. Concord, I don't like saying games are going to be failures because these are people's jobs at risk, right? I don't want anyone to lose any jobs. I don't want any game to fail. But every time I see Concord, I want to fall asleep. And I say that as someone that literally suffers from insomnia, right? So, like, if that's doing that for me, like, have any of you two actually heard anyone say that this game's going to stick around?
Which one? Concord?
Yeah.
I mean, it's launching at $40, and there's even a $90 edition that gives you all the character skins. I'm assuming. Look, if you remember, Destruction All Stars, when it was announced for the PlayStation 5 as a launch title, at the last minute, was added to PlayStation Plus, and there was no way to buy the game because they realized no one had pre-ordered the game. I would imagine, and again, I don't have the pre-order numbers in front of me. I know that from what I have heard, it does not look good. So is it possible that this at the last minute drops into PlayStation Plus? I think that the only way this game even remotely has a chance for anyone to play this on PlayStation is for that to happen.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think like trying to give this game off for free, hypothetically, to a single player centric fan base, it's just not going to work.
No.
I don't think there's anything that's going to work for this game because people, they don't like the look of the characters. The gameplay apparently is like a slower version of Overwatch, and like again, nobody was asking for this. I mean, this game came around when Jim Ryan was wanting to have all these different live service games, in the pipeline. Because if you think about it, yeah, Sony, they do put out single player games that sell millions of copies, but when those games come out, they kind of just stop selling over time. 3 months after release, the bell curve's going down, and not many people are talking about the game at all. But when it comes to multiplayer, you have multiplayer with microtransactions that make money every single day, every single week of the year. And Sony doesn't really have that. They don't really have that kind of game, and they clearly want that. Microsoft, they have that with Halo and Call of Duty and all that now. And like, I do think it's a good idea for Sony to have something like that because it generates revenue throughout the year. But again, nobody's asking for Concord. Nobody's wanting an Overwatch clone. And look at the big content creators, the huge ones that, cover all these like big releases. It looks like nobody's really been paid to play Concord on stream. It doesn't look like any of the big content creators are talking about it other than the fact that the low player count. So like, I don't know what's going to happen. I can't. The problem with this game is that they have this narrative storytelling throughout every week for like, I think it's like 2 months or something, where at the end of the week there's going to be a 5-minute cutscene or something, and it's going to tell a story. That's really cool. However, people are going to get attached to these characters in these cutscenes that they play as, and narrative wise, that doesn't even make sense itself because you're playing against other characters that are in your crew in the cutscenes. So, like, from a narrative standpoint, that doesn't make sense. They're trying to appeal to the single player fan base by putting cutscenes in multiplayer. That's not going to work. Do you know what else has cutscenes in multiplayer? Call of Duty. Nobody really likes that stuff.
Yeah.
That's why you could skip the stuff when the game starts. So, like, I don't think the game's going to pay off. I hope the developers, they have plans to make things work or have another game in development, because I see this as a colossal failure. Maybe IGN praising this game as much as they did doesn't make any sense, right?
It's a farce.
Yeah,
is what it is.
And
yeah.
I looked back. They gave Alien Isolation like a 5 out of 10. Sacrilegious, if you tell me, right? So, like, does it surprise me? No.
No.
But I don't see this working out for them, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that this is a failure at launch. Just look at the numbers, folks. Interestingly enough, and Umbra, I want to bring you in. I know you have to step away for a hot second. I want to get you in with your hot take on this. One of the things that we have all learned from Sony, besides them being very bullish and the masters of marketing, right? They know how to market their games. It's just what they do, and they do it extremely well. If Concord would have even been a blip on the map, Umbra, we would have heard about it. But we have not heard anything. So, to Jamie Moran's point about classic IP, I happened to find this post. Now, this person is a Sony fan. His name, he goes by the name is @TheRealRadec, RADEC. And he says this is a very interesting point and lines up 1-to-1 to exactly what we're talking about. He says, just thinking about how we could have gotten The Last of Us Online, Twisted Metal, the London Studios multiplayer game, and the Spider-Man multiplayer game this generation if things turned out differently, with a sad face. And think about that for a second. We have 4, and I say 4 because I don't care what anyone tells me, Umbra. The military shooter that didn't have a name was SOCOM. What part of SOCOM it was, how much of SOCOM it was from its predecessor, we will never know. It's canceled. It's one of the 4 canceled. But what I find to be unbelievably head-scratching is Twisted Metal had the potential to have people like myself who love the IP, who absolutely will play a new one, will play it multiplayer, will play and spend money on character skins for the vehicle I'm driving, as well as spend money in The Last of Us Online. I would have easily, if they had a season pass, probably bought it. I would have bought different skins for the guns. Spider-Man is another one. The Spider-Man multiplayer looks so dope. I don't even know what to say. And again, of course, the the defunct now potential SOCOM game, which would have been what everyone is really asking for. Seeing how Concord has turned out has me believing a couple of things. This is still a directionless PlayStation, and their fan base is getting frustrated with them. No roadmap. If you are a PlayStation guy or gal and you're not asking where the games are as much as you did for Xbox, that's a problem in itself. Here, you look forward to what other multiplayer games do they have in the pipeline that are be of this ilk? Well, Jade Raymond's game, that is, of course, the Payday quote unquote copy or ripoff, whatever you want to use.
I'm going to
That
be
looks like-
honest. That has failure written all over it too.
Yeah, it failure. Absolutely failure. That
And
game has not been heard from.
It's not for the lack of the game being good. I don't think Concord is even bad from those who played it more. I've heard their opinions be kind of favorable. The problem is, the old thing of stick to itness. I don't think people want to stick to that. The PlayStation gamers, like Jamie said, it's not really their thing. And once you've catered to that audience and kind of I guess conditioned them into having these single player adventure action games and such, it's kind of hard to get them to just like, oh yeah, let's go do these live service games now. And that's pretty much the whole roadmap is what it's looking like, these type of service games. Like when they showed the showcase and they had all those service games showcased, PlayStation fanboys, some tried to hide it. Some of our Who brothers tried to be, oh, it was great. But the honest ones, they spoke their mind and they said they didn't like what they saw. I'll give a shout out to one in particular, actually two. Jack Move Johnny. I'm sure some of you all might know him.
Yep.
Jack Move has been hated on by other Who brothers because he has been super honest and harsh at times on what PlayStation has been doing and the moves they've made that he found displeasurable. Also, I would say BG Broken Games. He's also been that way. I'll give him that. But BG is kind of pessimistic by nature, so I'm whatever. But anyway, but the whole point of it is it goes back to, I think I've said this before, and I think it's kind of this down shift of live service games. You know how we've had other genres of games where kind of like, all right, yeah, the excitement for that is kind of I think live service games, they have their how do I put this? I think it's a tough spot to kind of land in when you have giants like Fortnite and multiplayer first person shooters like Call of Duty, and you know what I mean, like all these games taking the attention away. That's the same thing with Halo. Like a lot of people are like, oh, Halo, they did this wrong. Well, it's not really just that. It's a lot of things that's adding
competition more
it's a
so.
lot of competition that's harming the chance for them to have these numbers. Once people kind of find that game for them that hits that sweet spot, they're not really going to be shifting to go play something else. Call of Duty fans are going to stick to Call of Duty, and for Fortnite fans are going to stick to Fortnite, for instance, or maybe both might grab somebody, but they're not going to be playing a rotation typically of 3 and 4 of those types of games. I just don't see them doing it. How can you dedicate the time? Call of Duty itself is ridiculous, and all the tiers you have to get and the prestige and all that. Like, I don't have time for that, and it's the same thing for the First Descendant. The game looks cool. I enjoyed it from what I played of it. I didn't play a bunch, but it's one of those things I would have to stick with, and I just don't have time for it. I would have to really stick to that. It's not a strong story-based game. I'm not going to say it doesn't have a story. It's not a strong story-based games. So I think it's a bunch of things that worked against Concord. I don't think it's a bad game. I just don't think it's what the PlayStation gamers want. I'm also going to throw in this thing where we've had this real unnecessary negative discourse in gaming that has disrupted things with the whole, anti-DEI crowd and whatever, and the Sweet Baby Inc., etc. I think this game got hit by them saying, "Oh, the Sweet Baby Inc." or DEI too. I think that also played a part in it because they saw the pronouns and people went to town and they saw the overweight lady or whatever. And it's like, oh, there it is, DEI. So a lot of those things I think played against it too. And I will say this, respect to whomever on how you feel on the pronoun things. But I'm going to tell you, I feel like people have to be mindful of kind of pushing real world agendas into gaming. That Concord is set in space somewhere. It's like a Guardians of the Galaxy. Why in the world would they have pronouns of they, them, and all? Like, come on. Even I can see that, and I'm forgiving. I don't even care about that stuff, but I can see why people are like, oh, I don't like that. But the problem is people take it to extremes. So even if you don't like that thing, you don't have to jump to the extreme. People take it to super extremes, and that's the problem with discourse in this. But I think that also hurt it. And then I'll go one step further and add in, two steps. $40 price tag. It should have been free to play.
Yep.
At the onset. I think maybe they'll probably change that after seeing how poorly it's done. DEI is diversity, equity, and inclusion, Rick Hill. It's been a hot nonsense inside the gaming sphere, unfortunately, for the past year. But yeah, I think the $40 price tag is something that's hurting it too. You're putting this up against other hero shooters like Overwatch. Nobody's going to pay that when Overwatch is free. And you got it's silly. Also, you got Modern War. You have Black Ops 3 coming to Game Pass. Modern Warfare 3 is about to drop tomorrow in Game Pass. Yep. Who is about to pay $40 for Concord?
You know what's even worse? You're onto something here. I'd like to add some context if you don't mind, because Marvel Rivals happen to be in the same showcase as Concord. One is a Marvel free-to-play hero game, which of course they're heroes, not surprising, versus this shooter hero game. And I think where it really fails, at least for me, is the genericness of it. Like, all the characters are just, they seem like someone was doodling and just came up with an idea and they went to print. Like, they all seem as generic as you could possibly get for a designed character. And I think ultimately that is one of the biggest problems, besides the $40.
Yeah, I think they're very generic, but also too, like, it's very clear that they are Guardians of the Galaxy coded. Like, you can see the guy that looks like Yondu is basically Star-Lord. You got the big guy who's basically Drax. Like, it's pretty clear that the lady was clearly supposed to be like, I guess, the version of what's her name? Gamora. Why? I got one better. I'll do you one better. Why is Gamora? So you got all that. You could see it very clearly, and then they just paled in comparison to the actual Guardians of the Galaxy, which hurt it too. It's just I think the $40 thing though is really what it is, and it's so many things I think working against the game. Unfortunately, the $40 price tag, the agenda part that people didn't care for. It being like a competition against so many other already beloved live service games. You're putting it in, it's a dangerous game to play right there, I think. Also, too, one other last thing is that whole, and this one hurt Helldivers a lot, unfortunately, because Helldivers is really damn good. I was just having this discussion with Riskit and Holly the other day. We did like a pre-recording, and I said Helldivers 2 might be worthy to mention as a game of the year contender. I enjoyed it that much just by like the sheer enjoyment of playing along with friends and things like that. Just pure enjoyment. I've had the most fun in that game, probably out of everything I played this year. Is one of the most fun I've had. One of the most fun games I've played this year, should I say. But the PlayStation account requirement thing, that hurt that, and I think it's hurting this too, where it mandates that PC players have to link their PSN and such like that. I think is, if you all I don't know if you all recall, but that right there tanked Helldivers too heavy. As soon as they did that,
Yep.
So I think that might play a part in it too. I think it's just a confluence of nonsense that really hurt this game. And I think PlayStation is going to have to shift gears too when it comes to the whole thought of that walled garden platforms. Just going to PC and PlayStation. If they're going to go for live service, they better think it twice and probably think about putting it on Xbox too. I just think they kind of limited themselves already at the jump, and PC gamers and even PlayStation gamers have better things they want to play in their minds. So it's just a lot of issues with that, and it's going to be unfortunate when that game bombs, because I know that it cost a pretty penny to make.
Well, I mean, I saw some people in the chat here. Let me see if I could find it. Hold on just a second. Who said this? The Beer Baron. So welcome, Beer Baron, as always. There's some conversation or people trying to compare to how Bleeding Edge failed. Now, Bleeding Edge did fail. Bleeding Edge was a hero shooter thingamajig. It didn't take off at all. I think the difference, and I think he brings it up a great point. Bleeding Edge was a quote unquote passion project by 10 people. And Ninja Theory. 10 people made the game. Now, if it would have been a success, then they would have added people to it. But 10 people made that game versus Concord. Concord is an entire team that's making this game. So, yes, there are comparisons. Bleeding Edge failed, sure. But 10 people made that game. Now, is that an excuse? I don't think it needs to be an excuse. I think when you consider a quote-unquote passion project versus a full-on, hey, we're getting into gas games, there's a big difference there. But, chalk up a loss for both companies. This one is still coming out. Concord is still releasing at $40. Again, there is a deluxe edition that's upwards of past $80 if you want all the skins. This is probably at the last minute going to be, hey, folks, we're putting it into your PlayStation Plus, as they should. It should be in there for PlayStation Plus. I mean, again, if you want to limit it to your PlayStation Premium players, that's fine. But then again, you want people to play your game. It's a multiplayer game. It's only a multiplayer game. I think they have a big hill to climb for PlayStation and Concord. I know, Umbra, you said you have to step away for a hot second. So while you are away, we'll move on to the next topic. But anything else you want to add on the back end before you pop out?
Sometimes you gotta pop out and show. Anyway, that was in my head. I'm sorry.
Boys, hold on.
Thank you, Kendrick Lamar. I got it. The song in my head. Yeah, man. I will say I feel like, and I'm not the type to celebrate any game doing bad or poor.
Of course not. Yeah.
So I feel bad for the developers behind this, because I'm sure they put their hearts and soul into it, but this thing has flop written all over it. I'm sorry to say it. The numbers don't lie. You see the numbers from Steam. PlayStation won't even release what they did on PlayStation. So I think it's a foregone conclusion already that this game is not going to do well. And maybe if they just change things up, if they can change up switch it to free to play, maybe it might have a chance, I think. But the $40 thing is a killer, I think, for what people already are. It's a hard sale already for them.
Yep, I agree. But listen, again, great points from both you and Jamie. We're happy to have you here. Obviously, we'll come back to you as soon as you get back regarding the Xbox Game Pass family plan potentially coming back. And we're going to get into the Windows Central article. So we'll see you in a minute, brother. Jamie, I want to bring up the next topic. I want to bring you into the conversation as we wait for Umbra's return. Interestingly enough, this one is, I think, a necessary conversation. We know Microsoft listens to this show. They listen to a lot of shows, certainly not just this one, which we appreciate. I've been told this by people with an Xbox, that people really enjoy the show. That is pretty ridiculous, to be honest with you. We're a small mom and pop kind of an organization. The fact that anyone from Xbox listens to it is incredibly humbling. But I do want to talk about this particular story. Now, Jez Corden of Windows Central posted this yesterday. The title of the article says, "What's next for Xbox Game Pass? Question mark. Cloud-only tier, exploring ad-based tiers, and the return of the Xbox Game Pass family plan? Question mark. So he's asking the question. On the bottom of the article, it says Xbox Game Pass has had some growing pains recently, but it is still a wealth of untapped potential ahead, according to Jez Corden. Now, interestingly enough, I saw some people asking the question regarding is he reporting that this is happening? Well, the way I can break it down, the best way I could break it down, simply is a post from Clobriel, who actually quoted what Jez actually said. And he says this: I've heard that Microsoft is working towards a cloud-only version of its subscription that would be cheaper and more approachable to buy than Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. And of course, that what he's talking about is the cloud gaming tier. Now, this tier, as you heard, we talked about it specifically on last week's Primetime Gaming. Myself, Hargeet Chani, and Kay Asante. And Kay Asante was very bullish about saying that this is a miss for Microsoft and specifically Xbox, Jamie, because the tier is not there. It's currently not available. And it's a tier that they could put up for $8 that would give cloud access only. Obviously, it would not have day-and-date games, but it would have a curated catalog of upwards of hundreds of games for someone, a normie, a casual gamer, that during the Amazon Days sale, where they had this $79.99 package where you got a month of Game Pass, you got a robot white controller, and of course, you got the Fire Stick TV 4K Max. That is probably one of the biggest misses. I don't understand how a $3 trillion company makes a partnership with a competitor like Amazon, puts this incredibly reasonably priced entry into cloud gaming together, and then instead of having a flash screen where it says $8, hundreds of games, where you get millions of new people signing up because it's $8. Instead, they punch you in the balls by offering you a $20 version that completely cuts your legs off if you're only playing cloud, because the same $20 version gets you cloud, gets you PC, and gets you console. But you're selling to a cloud audience that's finding your subscription service for the first time. It makes no sense. So to hear that they are now openly discussing, well, it makes sense. It's disappointing because I think it's a missed mark, in my opinion, on having this $8 deal for cloud only ready to rock and roll to get new subscribers in the door during a big sale. And now what you got to do is hope that they can have this ready to go sooner. And then, of course, do a 90s kind of ad where that big $8. And again, I'm saying $8. That's not confirmed. I'm saying that if you want people in the door, you want that impulse buy, it's got to be $8. And it's not going to be new games. It's hundreds of curated games that work well on the cloud, that you can get people that are considered casual or the casual audience into your system, into your subscription service, the same way that they are a part of Netflix and Hulu and Max and all the other subscription services. Let's get your hot take on that. We'll come back around to the family plan because I think that is a conversation that also needs its own legs, so to speak. Let's talk about the cloud gaming aspect and that how Microsoft is now considering an additional tier.
As much as I'm against having a lot of tiers for any service, I think that having a cloud-only one, it really makes sense. You know, the Fire TV thing is now a thing. And like you said, the normies, you're going to have people that purchase these sticks and they just want to play some games without buying a console. You know, this isn't meant for like the core gamer, so to speak. So like having a stick out there, a Fire TV stick where you can subscribe to like Game Pass, you know, xCloud or whatever, it makes sense, have hundreds of games in the cloud only service, no day one games. It's a weird misstep because these deals between Amazon and Microsoft, they've clearly been working on for a long time. So like it just seems like an oversight. Like, why wouldn't you have that like a cloud only tier? Because most of the people that are going to be playing xCloud on a Fire TV stick, those are the normies. These are people that don't have interest in buying a $400 or $500 box. So like it's a weird misstep. I don't know why they didn't do it. That being said, like look, most people that know me listening know I'm an Xbox guy through and through, right? But Microsoft they make weird decisions sometimes. The whole marketing situation where they have like £10 to like fund their like summer marketing budget. Like it's weird. Like you have this like $1 trillion organization. They have a ridiculous amount of like not just money, but they have advisors, and they just make bad decisions sometimes. I don't get it, but maybe like Jez Corden said, it's something that I think will happen. It's weird because people say that people freaked out when the whole Amazon Fire TV stick thing was announced a few weeks ago. People were livid, saying it's the end of consoles as we know it. And ever since that happened, I haven't seen anyone in my feed, even the detractors. I've never seen anyone post a picture of an Amazon Fire TV stick saying, "Hey, I'm selling my Xbox." Like that's not the
pretty
reality we live in.
ridiculous.
Like most people that are going to pick up this Fire TV stick, the thought of spending $400 or $500 on a console, even $200 on a console, is alien to them. Why would you do that when you can plug this like $50 thing into the side of your TV? So like these millions of people, and gamers might not like hating this, but like the bulk of gamers are normies, right? These are people that play 1 or 2 games a year, and when you have something like Game Pass, you funnel in these types of gamers into other products and services and games, which makes more money for the company. So like these Fire TV sticks, they're probably gonna advertise consoles to these people. So down the road, maybe they want a more premium experience with 4K and all that stuff. Having a cloud only option makes sense for those gamers. Like forcing them to get Game Pass Ultimate where they aren't going to be playing on PC. That's not a benefit for them. Maybe they don't want the EA access stuff. Maybe they just don't care about day one games because, again, there's no reason to play a game day one unless you're desperate for like a new game in that IP, or you cover the game, right? There's literally no other reason to buy a game day one. So like a cloud only option makes sense for those people specifically.
Yeah, I mean, you make great points. Again, from a hardcore point of view, not having day one games day and date doesn't make any sense. But not everyone thinks that way. If you again, we are hardcore. We equate, ladies and gentlemen, to about if on a great day. I mean, like the greatest day of all time, 15% of the market for Xbox, for PlayStation, for Nintendo. It doesn't matter. Pick your your platform of choice. The casual audience, especially for something like PlayStation, is 80+%. I would even dare say closer to 85%. Same thing for Xbox. Yes, there are a bunch of hardcore players that appreciate and want day and date games. There are people that want EA play. There are people that want online play. Yes, all of that. But that's not everybody. And that's not who they need to sell to. We're already here. What they need to do specifically for Xbox is to bring new players to a platform that is, again, in third place. I don't know if Umbra is back as of yet. Oh yeah, he is. Infinite Umbra. Let's we haven't really discussed as of yet the family plan. We will come back to that. That is a relevant point of contention for this conversation. But I do want to talk about specifically an $8 tier potentially for cloud only gaming, meaning that you're not playing on PC, you're not playing on console, you're not getting games day and date. What you're getting potentially is a curated list of hundreds of games for $8 a month and on your Fire Stick TV on cloud. Do you think that this is a bit of a miss not having this available while they announced this deal with Amazon?
Yeah, and I mean they kind of had that, right? That was kind of what they had previously until they changed up the tiers. Although it did have day and date for one of them that were lower tier. I forgot exactly how they were tiered, but I know.
Yeah, the console one was originally no multiplayer, but
Right.
had day and day games. They added multiplayer. They took away the day and day games and raised
Right.
it to $14.99.
Yeah, and that was the thing. I remember even back then I made a complaint like some of this didn't make sense then. So I think it's much clearer now that they're just trying to get people and push people straight to ultimate, right? It's pretty obvious. For that tier that you're talking about, I think that would be pretty smart for sure to have a curated list, which they had at first, a curated list of rotation of 25 games, I believe they had then.
Yes.
So yeah, curated list of that at that price that you can stream straight, from a Fire Stick or whatever. I think that would be ideal for sure. Some people might say, well, who's really going to play that? And, blah, blah, blah. And my thought process was on that I'm not sure if I said it here or elsewhere, but my thinking is that maybe they would put something a low tier price point for a streaming stick to entice people to maybe to eventually get into the hardware.
Yep.
And because some people were like, well, this is just more reasons to say that you don't need an Xbox. They're defeating themselves and et cetera, when Microsoft has made it kind of clear that hardware has never, or at least for a while now, has not been the biggest focal point for them. So I think that it could have a positive effect on doing what you're talking about, which is entice people enough to move up to a stronger tier. And by getting a stronger tier, they might need the hardware, thus the Series S, right? Maybe that might be their first step into getting into something that can really carry the games they need. Or maybe they'll say, you know what, I'll go all out and get the X. So I think it can have a positive reaction because of the streaming itself. But yeah, absolutely. I think that'll be wise for them to have a streaming tier, maybe even less than that price, honestly. Maybe if they can get it at something that really grabs people. Yeah, $8 is good enough. Never mind.
I think $8 is one of those prices. Again, you have to sell it to your new audience. We're here. The gaming community is already here. You don't got to sell me on anything. What you need to do if you're looking to expand your business, and again, I'm no math major or I have a certificate of business authenticity where I can tell you how to manage and market your money. I can't do that. I can tell you using common sense that if you want people that are the casuals or the normie audience that really haven't bought a game in years, haven't played a game in years, but understand streaming services and said, hey, I'm sitting on my couch, I'm watching the Fallout series on Amazon. This is great. Wonder what that game would be like. Oh, wait a second. Xbox is $8 a month for all of these games.
$7.99? Are you out of your mind?
Yeah, it'd be like the '90s commercials. How ridiculous those were. The flash screen of $8.
Right.
You could do that, and it doesn't take a marketing manager to figure out how to entice people who have become accustomed, Umbra, to streaming services like they are in 2024. Everyone has one. Maybe they have 2, 3, 15. I don't know. I just signed up with a new one the other day with Mrs. Boom that gives us all arcade dramas. It's called Vicky. It's $10 a month. It's phenomenal. We're watching. We already queued up 20 different shows that we want to watch. One of which we're watching now, which is about zombies, and it's awesome.
You say Vicky like Victoria?
Yeah, like Viki. That it's an app for Asian content because it has Japanese content. It has Thailand, Indonesia. as well, but we subscribed for K-dramas because
You all are really feeling those K dramas. I remember you
we
talking about it
love
before.
them, dude. It's crazy, man. We really enjoy them. I watch them. I mean, Mrs. Boom is a fan. I became a fan
Yeah.
because of Mrs. Boom.
Yeah, it's always the ladies that drag us into that stuff, isn't it? No, I feel you. I was like that for Buffy. My ex at the time when we were together, she brought me into that. But I'm glad though because Buffy turned out to be really damn
Buffy's
good.
a great. It's a shame that they never came back to it at all.
Yeah.
I think Michelle Gellar still has it. She sign her back up, do a new series.
I swear,
love
do
it.
a movie or something, a spinoff. Come on, Amazon,
Indeed.
somebody,
Indeed.
Netflix. But no, I'm with you though on this whole thing right here, and also too with them having Boosteroid and G-Force. Like if Xbox, I don't know what they're going to do to try to improve their streaming services, but if they could get their streaming up to the level of a G-Force now, imagine how great that would be with the streaming capabilities, having that tied right to
well, they're working together, right? Like I wouldn't be surprised, Umbra, if there isn't some sort of a partnership to, I don't want to say borrow, use some of the technology and incorporate that into what they're doing with cloud gaming for Xbox specifically. I mean, they
could
did.
be right.
I mean, it's possible.
I'm wondering too, like, because one of the things that Microsoft bought with Bethesda and Zenny Max was Orion. They got with Bethesda, the Orion streaming service that they were trying to work on. I don't want to say streaming service, but the Orion streaming capabilities. I forgot the name of it right now. I think it was called Orion, like the Orion Star built, whatever the star, whatever. What happened to that? I don't know. It feels like they were going one direction with streaming, and they kind of just like, all right, that's enough. I don't know. I will say this though. I think it varies from person to person because I typically have a really quality time when I use their X Cloud. I'll still call it X Cloud. Whenever I use it, or if I do console streaming, it still works pretty effectively for me. So I don't really have any complaints. But I've heard it's hit or miss for a lot of people versus GeForce Now, which is more hit than miss.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And speaking of GeForce Now, Will Broke Boy Lewis, thank you for reminding me. I'm an old man. I forgot. Like literally, I was running out the door after I was done with the show to take care of errands before I got to get Mrs. Boom. Will Broke Boy Lewis drops a very generous $2 super chat, and he reminds the old man. He says, "Boom, did you sign up for GeForce Now yesterday? I'm literally once I get this topic started, I'm going to head over to my TV and sign up for it real quick. I'll jump off camera because I'm going to forget. Like I have so many things going on. I'm running at 1,000 miles an hour. I actually forgot. Thank you, Will, for the reminder. While we have you here, Infinite Umbra, I want to kind of transition to the Xbox Game Pass family plan. So people in the chat were asking what the exact specifics were for what Jez Corden had in his article. So, folks, I have it here for you. I'm going to read verbatim from the article, which, of course, will be added to the show notes. So if you didn't read the article, it's rather beefy. It's a big read, but it's a really good one. I'm going to read you the 3 paragraphs, what Jez Corden had to say regarding specifically the Xbox family plan coming back. He says this: I've also heard very tentatively that rumors that the Xbox Game Pass friends and family plan experiment is not dead. We here at Windows Central exclusively revealed that the Xbox Game Pass family plan experiment in yesteryear, of course, talking about last year, and Microsoft later tested it in a couple of territories before pulling it. Obviously, this could be a great way to get the next generation into Xbox and console gaming, since it would be far more cost effective for parents of youngsters to buy one multi-user plan over several separate Xbox Game Pass plans. The article goes on to say, ladies and gentlemen, one of the best things about Xbox Game Pass is lowering the barriers to variety of gaming for individuals, but it defeats the point if you have to buy 5 separate subscriptions for your small family. And sure, I know most kids these days are happy to play around in Roblox or Fortnite on an iPad, but there's no reason why Xbox Game Pass couldn't bring some benefits forward and into those games as well. Microsoft is already doing a partnership in this vein with Riot Games for free titles like League of Legends. Either way, the family plan would be a great place to rapidly expand the total number of users attached and who are loving the service. So, again, this is a segue, ladies and gentlemen, into the first topic. But, Umbra, I want to go to you. Having a family plan is incredibly important. And I'm going to tell you why. I know several people personally who have multiple Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscriptions because their entire household are all gamers. This is an opportunity, like the article and like Jez Corden is suggesting, that if they could get people, again, how many people? Well, originally it was pitched upwards of 5 people, including yourself. So it would have been you and 4 additional family members for this low monthly price, rather than your own subscription monthly service fee, as well as 4 others. I don't know what it could be. Is it $39.99 that gives you upwards of 4 people plus yourself? That seems fair, but this is something that definitely needs to come back in a big way. And again, I run it parallel to having a cloud tier at an entrance fee of like $8. This has to come back. Let's get your hot take.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's been a long time coming too, because that was like rumored or whatever, or said so long ago. I think many people probably just kind of like, put it out of sight, out of mind. But yeah, I'm in the boat where I don't really have the need for it right now, because I do game sharing. So I have Ultimate and I game share with my nephew. So, the one I told you all I forced to help buy the $70 games. So so I'm okay for now, but I can definitely see this working for a lot of people. As far as, I mean, you can also do this in so many ways to go about it, obviously, with friends you trust and things like that, which will help lower the cost for you overall. I think it's just a smart play in general. Just cost effective. You cut down your costs and things like that. And in the world where we're all like subscribed to like 30 things, less of a charge for one thing would definitely be helpful. So it also does that. It can also, I think it can, for Xbox, it can be beneficial because it can, I think, increase, player engagement. You're going to have more people probably jumping on, if that is the case, to try out all of these games. I will say though, I think the reason why they've been hesitant to do this family plan is because of the tricks that we are going to pull, which is getting friends and everybody to pay where we have to pay a minimal amount, and they're not really going to make all the money they want to make. So that's probably why this has never come out, being honest. What else would I say? I think one way to really entice us to do that is if the family plan, we had a discussion. I think, what was it at? I think it was on Kay Asante's show. It was on Kay and Everborn show, where it was floated. You know what? Actually, no, it was floated on Infinite podcast and then carried on to K's. So on Infinite, we had a poll we put up, and it was about would you pay? The reason why I mentioned Kay, because Kay was on the show that time with us, me, him, and Risky talking, and I floated the idea, and then Kay expanded on it, and he said he would absolutely pay for a plan that had Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, EA Play Plus or whatever, and Ubisoft Plus. So EA Play Pro, that's the name, and Ubisoft Plus. If they had all those in, he said like $40 a month, he would do it, right? So maybe if they could expand, or at least put out a family plan that includes all of those, or one of those included with it for a strong price. I would say, I'm just going to go all out and say, if they included all 3 for that price, that will be something that, they could probably charge 40 or 50 a month. I don't want to give you too many crazy ideas.
Thinking, before, it's funny you say that. Now again, folks, don't throw the virtual tomatoes. I'm just trying to make this make sense. If the tier that I actually see being beneficial for everyone involved would be a tier that would be $49.99 that included upwards of 5 people, meaning that if you had 5 people in your household, including yourself, that would be literally half the price of what 5 people would pay monthly at $20 a pop, equaling 100 a month. If you paid $49.99 a month, you could get yourself and 4 other additional people for half price. You would still maintain everything you get now with Game Pass Ultimate. You can play on PC, you can play on cloud, you can play in your console. It's day and date releases, and I think that price is not only fair, but it does win for everybody because that means that you could logistically get Xbox Game Pass for $10 a month, which would equate to about $120 a year if you separate it with the other 4 people that would be trustworthy.
If you can get trustworthy people on it, because I see my man, he said, I'm not paying $50 a month for nothing. I get you, brother. Trust me. But if you can get 4 other reliable people besides yourself, that is $10 a month for you. And you would have Game Pass Ultimate, you would have Game Pass, EA Play Pro and Ubisoft Plus. That would be a steal at $50 a month to get all of those. I'm just saying, $10 a month personally for yourself, as long as you have somebody reliable to work with.
Right. If the other people keep up their end of the bargain, $10 a month is nothing.
Yep. If you can find, 4 other people, other friends that could do this with you, that is a W. Hell, we could probably, honestly, if being honest, you could probably do this with, the community, being like, hey, we're going to start this thing where we all game share, blah, blah, blah. Like if you can get some trustworthy people in the community, it could be done. Honestly, it could be something, maybe a part of, I don't want to go too far, but yeah, it could be, I just think it could be something that could be done in the community if you can find some trustworthy people. And so I don't know. I think it's a possible W, I would say.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Jamie, let's bring you in on the conversation of the family plan. I think that this is something that absolutely needs to happen. The market, I understand, look, just watch the news, folks. Everything is expensive. The first thing that goes when things are too expensive for you are entertainment. The one thing that we do not want to give up is gaming. It allows for us to get away from this horrible world and just enjoy gaming. This is a great opportunity for Microsoft to bring back a program that they talked about, they put on the shelf, but I think has a big relevant part of where gaming is currently and where it's going. Let's get your hot take.
Yeah, so like I personally don't have like children, but I can imagine that people with kids, like Game Pass must be expensive at the minute if you have several children all that play video games. And like the way game sharing works, like doing that with multiple accounts across multiple different consoles, like I can see that being a bit weird on Xbox Live's front when it comes to like, maybe I don't know, detection fraud or something on their end. I honestly think it'll happen. I think it's just a matter of time. I think the main issue for it not happening, like you said, is that people will abuse the hell out of it. Gamers are fickle, and they will find ways to get like Game Pass cheap. People were doing the $1 trick for a while. People will abuse it. So I think Microsoft they pretty much trying to find a way to like make it so you can't. Maybe they'll make it so. I think the best way to do it would be to make sure people are using the same Wi-Fi network. But it's going to be a weird tightrope for Microsoft to walk, because Microsoft's had great deals in the past when it comes to their services. Like I always used to talk about this all the time. Microsoft Rewards, that was, and I'd still say is the best loyalty program on earth, right?
Yep.
I never really made a post about this because it only affected British people, and 90% of the people that follow me aren't British. So in the UK, up until about April, I was making close to 1,000 Microsoft Reward points a day. And
Wow.
yeah, and
That's
you got
wow.
you got 250 points basically just for playing a PC game for 15 minutes. Right? So like I bought a Starfield controller just by saving up for a month. Right?
That's
And
crazy.
it paid for my Game Pass. And I worked out I was making about £28 per month via Microsoft Reward points. And then they changed it in April to the point where now I think it's something like £15. So like, you know, not enough people are using Bing and their services to like Microsoft give out all those points, but it was a really good deal. It paid for Game Pass, still really does pay for Game Pass. And but people they lowered the amount of points you can get because one, people aren't using Bing that much, and two, people abused the living hell out of Microsoft Rewards. These people that abused it ruined it for me. Right? People would have multiple different accounts, and back in before 2022, you could send Microsoft Reward points to other accounts. So people would literally earn points on one account and just send it to different accounts so they could buy games. People that abused it ruined it for everyone else. So now Microsoft Rewards is in a worse place than it ever has been. It might get better. I hope it does. And I think that's what Microsoft is worried about when it comes to Game Pass. Because look, most people that subscribe to Game Pass, they want a good deal. That's what Game Pass is. But if people can figure out a way to like abuse the system, they will. And guess what? That'll ruin it for all of us. All of us. And that's the biggest worry. So, like, I hope Microsoft gets the family plan sorted. It's something I think they need to because of the amount of families with Game Pass, but they can't have a system in place that can be abused because when people will abuse it, they'll ruin Game Pass for literally every subscriber on the planet. And
Yeah.
like I just said, it happened with Microsoft Rewards. They can't let that happen to Game Pass because when it comes to Xbox, Game Pass is the bread and butter of the entire, platform.
I mean, you're not wrong. And the one thing we do not want to do is have Game Pass compromised. Look, like I've said before, ladies and gentlemen, even now, the price increase for Game Pass is coming in September, right before the launch of Call of Duty in October. Makes sense from a business point of view. You can today go to Eniba or cdkeys.com and get your 3 month of subscription, stack up to 36 months, and be paid all the way up and through 2027. You can do that like right now. If you are someone that doesn't care, and there's quite a few people that are like, yeah, I just let it recharge. Like Lethal Papa, one of the best modders in the business, put in the chat earlier that he pays for Ultimate for himself, his son, and his wife. They're all gamers. That's $60 a month. That is a full, well, it was a full game price. Now everything is $76.43 with tax, but you know what I mean. That's a lot of money for a subscription service being used upon by 3 gamers in one household. It's not that his son lives in Chicago and him and his wife live in Wisconsin. No, it's they're together in the household. It shouldn't cost $60. It should probably cost half that. Because you are in one household on one IP address using Xbox Game Pass, and all 3 of you are gamers. There's got to be a way to do it where if you're in the same household, that if they want to streamline it to not just friends and family, maybe it's just a family plan, the Xbox Game Pass family plan. I don't know what they do. I'm not a money marketing major, folks, but I do think it would be a big deal if it came back. It would save people a lot of money, and I think that there is a place for it in 2024. But
I would just say,
do it for that.
Boom. I think that's just the biggest hurdle right there for them to get over is that essentially, let's say he's paying 60 a month, and then you cut it to 30. That's $30 they just lost out on a recurring. So it's like, yeah, they already have to have their little, number crunchers over there. Like, nah, that's not conducive to our pockets.
Yeah,
so I don't know.
No, I don't know how they're gonna do it. It's not gonna be easy. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
But look, ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it for us today. We're gonna again. I love doing the 90-minute shows. I love doing the 2-hour shows, but I don't want to waste your time. We've talked about everything that I really took the time to write about, and I think everyone had great conversations about it. I'm gonna wind up cutting this down, spend some more time on the back end, streamline it. So if you missed the show live and you don't have an hour and 20 minutes to sit behind a computer screen or listen to it on your phone, I'm going to cut it down to like smaller bite-size topics, which I've been doing, and people are really enjoying that new type of content where it's the same podcast, it's just cut down and streamlined, and some of the in between stuff is cut out to make it more streamlined. But let's get everyone out of here. A big thank you to the super chat, of course, and the reminder from Broke Boy Will Broke Boy Lewis. I have to definitely get over to GeForce. It's half price. I definitely want to sign up for it because I want to use it. Elusive Gamer, Jamie Moran, you have a show happening later today at 6 p.m. with Logan Meyer Eastern Standard Time called the Xbox. Give everyone where they can subscribe, what the name of the show is, and more importantly, where can people follow you on social media?
Thanks, Boom. It's always a pleasure. It's been a great show today. But yeah, my YouTube channel is The Elusive Gamer. We have all things Xbox podcast on Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Eastern. We have a lot of cool things planned for tonight. I also have a video coming out tomorrow, which affects every Xbox gamer on the planet. So stay tuned to that. I've been working on it for the past month. It's taken like over 30 hours of editing, but that is finally out tomorrow. Big video. My Twitter is also Jamie Moran UK, where I cover Xbox pretty much exclusively, the occasional joke. But when it comes to my YouTube, it is Xbox. I don't do clickbait. There's no console war or any of that stuff, just pure Xbox coverage.
Yeah, it never is console war with you, Jamie, and I appreciate that, and I think a lot of people appreciate that because it's very easy to sell hate, but you don't do that. You have a great conversation with Logan each and every week, and I hope that you get more subscribers to check out that content. Will Broke Boy Lewis drops an additional, very generous $2 super chat and says, I pay, talking about, I guess somebody asked him about the about GeForce Now. He said he paid $50 for 6 months for the ultimate tier. I hope that because again, I think it's $100 for 6 months, which is that's $20 a month. I don't necessarily need it, but for $50 for 6 months, if it's going to recur at that price, I'll leave it. $100 a year is not that bad. That's obviously if you broke it down by 12 months, it's not. That's about $8 a year, a month. That's not bad. But if it's going to reoccur at $100 for 6 months, then I probably won't do it. But Will, thanks again for the additional super chat. Infinite Umbra, you have a show coming up Thursday evening. You and Danny. Well, it's called The Fix, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, each and every Thursday, where you break down wrestling, you break down the newest, hottest films, and this week, folks, is Wolverine and Deadpool. And FYI, there's not going to be a Breakfast with Boom this Friday because I'm hanging out with my brother, and we're going to see it. We're going to have some breakfast in the morning after I drop off the missus, and then we're going to go watch Deadpool Wolverine in the RPX Theater at early that morning. I'm hearing some crazy good things. I could spoil it. I will not. Some of the stuff that's in there is going to blow your freaking mind, ladies.
So you're really having breakfast with Boom on Friday?
I am literally having breakfast with my brother. My brother's actually having breakfast with Boom. I'm just paying. It's the same brand, brother. Where can people subscribe to your YouTube channel and, more importantly, follow you on social media?
Yes, sir. Always a pleasure to speak with you, gentlemen. As you know, if I have the energy to do so, I will always be here.
Well, we appreciate it for sure.
Oh yes, I'm sure. It's a pleasure. It's my pleasure. But yeah, you guys can find me, of course, on Twitter X, Elon's platform, for better or worse. Infinite Umbra or Umbra Infinite. You will find me either way. This Thursday, myself and Daniel J. McGee on The Fix, and that is at 8 o'clock Eastern. I'm not quite sure what we'll be talking about. It's not a lot of strong topics in gaming, I think, that we haven't already all covered. So we're probably going to focus more on different media to talk about maybe The Boys, season and such in the finale.
We haven't watched it. Mrs. Boom and I love it. We
haven't checked it out yet?
Yeah,
okay.
we waited so we could just check it all out in one shot. We're also
Okay.
still behind because we didn't watch the one with the kids either. So we want to watch.
I
that
haven't
one
watched that
first.
either. Yeah, I got to check that out myself. What's it called? Whatever it was.
Yeah, it's the one that they're like high school kids. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Gen V.
Gen V. Yes, thank
That's
you,
it.
sir. Thank you.
Yeah, I got to check that out too. But also too, we've been watching the House of the Dragon, so could have a discussion around that as well. Have you been watching that? Have you ever checked that out? Game of Thrones?
My wife and I, believe it or not, we are huge fans of Lord of the Rings. We have never watched the House of the Dragon or the one prior to it.
What?
Yeah,
Wow.
we never did. Yeah, we never did.
Say what you say when you say it. You never watched it, huh?
No,
Oh,
no.
you
We
all
watched
would-
the first.
you
I think we saw
all
the
would
first
be-
episode, got halfway
Uh-huh.
through it, and we're like, "Yep, this is not for us," and never went back.
Oh,
So,
boom.
sadly enough,
Trust me. You talk about you and your wife loving, you and Mrs. Boom loving the K dramas. You all get I think an episode or two into Game of Thrones. You won't let that go. I will say the last few seasons or whatever,
Yeah.
last season especially, it ruins it. But the first 6 seasons you're going to be enthralled. Jamie knows what I'm saying.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think even season 7 was passable, even though it was clear they were teleporting all over the place. But
Yeah.
it still was good.
Yeah.
But season 8 was just a travesty, unfortunately.
Yeah. Season 8 was it was so bad. We still, like, when I'm at the pub with my mates, we still talk about how bad it was.
Yeah, it's one of those things that upsets you after it. Like, it's like you did so well. It would have been a masterpiece of a show, a series altogether, but they ruined it in that last season, in my opinion. But to me, still Breaking Bad is still that. To me, it's still the masterpiece. It's still the greatest show ever done on TV because they stuck the beginning all the way to the end. But anyway, that long spiel aside, yeah, you guys come by Thursday and check us out and see what we're talking about. Definitely we'll be talking about wrestling, as Boom pointed out, because we got the girl Rhea Ripley to return, man, and she's looking good. I saw her lick Dom in the face the other day. I was like, do you know, I would have stopped acting at that point. It would have been a more act. I know she's married and all. I get it, but I would have violated that sanctity of your marriage if she'd have licked me in my face the way she did that boy. I'm like, goodness. I would have. She probably would have suplexed me though. She's pretty strong, but yeah,
she is pretty strong.
Probably would have suplexed me. Yeah. But no, man, yeah, definitely we'll be talking about that. You guys come by and show us some love this Thursday. We'd appreciate it. And I hope you all have a great day. And
thank you so much, brother.
Get the gaming. Yes. I'm gonna go check out Wolverine, Deadpool, and Wolverine as well, too. Boom. I don't know if it'll be Thursday or Saturday, but I definitely do want to go see it.
Yeah, it's gonna be the mark of return for Kevin Feige's 616, and I cannot wait to be a part of that this particular Friday morning. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for tuning in. We had a ton of people here. We appreciate you checking out the show. If you're finding the channel for the first time, please consider subscribing. We are on the hunt for 15K, and we're like $170 and change away. Anything that you can do to help us get there, well, simply just subscribe and hit the bell icon if you're feeling super generous. We would greatly appreciate it. And of course, a big thank you to the super chats that came in, the channel memberships that continue to support the channel behind the scenes. And of course, I will close out the show with something that's incredibly important to me. Hopefully one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids, and he would say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, son. I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. And we'll see you next week on the newest episode of the Xbox Factor Podcast.